Hey everyone, Susan Storm. So today I want to make a quick video about the big differences between INTJs and ISTJs. If you're trying to decide which type is your best fit type, then this is a great place to start. I'm a certified MBTI practitioner with over 10 years of experience and the founder of a website called psychologyjunkie.com. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The number one sign you're an INTJ versus an ISTJ is that you are very future oriented. You're always trying to anticipate how things are going to play out in the future. You're always looking for where that last domino is going to fall or what the ripple effect of current situations are going to be 5, 10, 15 years down the road. You're ultimately interested in future outcomes to the point where you can sometimes kick the can of happiness and enjoying the present moment down the road permanently because you're constantly thinking so far ahead. If you're an ISTJ, you are very past oriented. And I don't mean this in a you're stuck in a rut in an overly traditional way. What I mean is you are constantly trying to glean wisdom from the past and apply that wisdom to present situations. You are trying to preserve traditions that are meaningful and useful and add a sense of stability and continuity to life. When you go through an experience, you try to distill the lesson from that experience so that you can apply it to future experiences. Your way of processing life is very much about gleaning wisdom, not only your experiences, but wisdom from experts and ancestors who came before you and their wisdom, and figuring out how to repurpose that wisdom in the present and in the future. So if you're an INTJ, you're constantly looking forward. How are things going to play out? What is the future going to look like? And what is the distant future going to look like? A lot of INTJs are futurists. They're interested in long-term consequences and ramifications and in predicting how those things are going to go. A lot of ISTJs, they're very practical minded. They're interested in preserving those useful traditions that can get lost in the flurry of progress or technology, and preserving those traditions that can be useful and applying them to present and future situations. We need both these types. INTJs, we need the people who can tell us this is how things are going to be, and here's what we should do about it. We also need the ISTJs, the people who hold on to those lessons from the past, who hold on to those practical life experiences and distill the wisdom from those and help us to not lose all that wisdom in the process of time and in the rapid advances of technology as life goes on. When it comes to conversation, there's differences between these two types. INTJs are interested in the abstract, things that are intangible. They're interested in concepts. They're interested in, again, those predictions, those far-reaching ripple effects. ISTJs are interested in the practical. The more concrete something is, the more it's experience-related, the more interesting it is for them. Whereas for INTJs, the more abstract something is, the more interesting it is for them. If they were to have a conversation about what is truth really, what is justice really, what does it actually mean to love someone? They're talking about these concepts and breaking them down. These are intangible things. This is what's going to excite the INTJ. If they're also talking about things like psychology, or they're talking about things like big political movements, these are things that will excite the INTJ. Now, the ISTJ can also be excited about certain things like this, but they want it to be wrapped up with the tangible. They're drawn to the real. So if you're in a conversation with ISTJ, you might be talking about how they made their latest sourdough starter, what the greatest uses are for goji berries, what's the best brand of dishwasher, what's the best way to organize the logistics of the potluck on Sunday. So for ISTJs, everything that they talk about, they wanted to have some practical real world implication. Said both INTJs and ISTJs are extroverted thinking types. This means that they use a process called extroverted thinking. So it gives them the TJ in their type code. So they do tend to be very productive, organized, goal-oriented people. So in the workplace, both types tend to be very productive. They both tend to get a lot done and be very focused on the bottom line, the ROI, and the overall goal. So they can both be very productive. But again, the INTJs can be really good at anticipating and adapting to long-term changes, whereas ISTJs are going to be good at implementing tried and true technologies, tried and true solutions, and gleaning wisdom from each lived experience and using that gleaned wisdom to improve each preceding experience. Next, let's talk about how the types get in the grip of stress. When individuals are going through chronic or extreme stress, they tend to fall into the grip of their inferior function. And you don't have to know what that is. I'll just explain very briefly. the inferior function tends to take over your personality when you've worn out your normal modes of processing. So when ISTJs are really in the grip of stress, they're really chronically stressed, they tend to catastrophize. They see lots of worst case scenarios all around them. There's negative possibilities everywhere, and they lose their normal focus on what's tried and true. They lose their normal focus on just doing one thing at a time. Instead, they become overwhelmed by dozens of negative possibilities. When they're in this state, the future tends to look really bleak and uncertain. INTJs, when they're in the grip of stress, they fall into this more impulsive, reckless state. They become more physically reactive. They might become more pleasure focused. They might overeat, drink too much. They might binge watch too much TV, or they might speed when they're driving or make these really impulsive, reckless decisions. Now, some ISTJs and INTJs, they have a more balanced approach to being in the grip. Some ISTJs, rather than catastrophizing about all the things that will go wrong, might just binge watch a science fiction show where exploring possibilities about how bad the future could be, or read dystopian novels. Some INTJs, rather than binge eating food or speeding in their cars, might exercise a lot. So it does vary, but when they're in the grip of extreme stress, ISTJs tend to be more catastrophizers, whereas INTJs tend to be more indulgers, more reckless, more action-oriented. So I hope this has been helpful. There's just a few ways to tell these two types apart. If you have more questions, be sure to leave a comment. You can also book a type clarification session with me where I can help you pin down your best fit personality type if you're feeling unsure which one really suits you best. I've been doing this for a long time. It's my favorite part of my job. So I will leave a link to that in the description. I would love to talk to you on Zoom. So like and subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.